I never heard of David until, little girl's body parts was found in his car. Crazy first impression. I kept hearing niggas talk about how talented bro was and how much of a waste it was, but I could just tell by looking at bro that this nigga was not that talented. This nigga was corny as fuck. At least he looked it. Like there's no way. I could tell. I could tell he had, you know, some type of talent, but I knew y'all were dragging it. So I decided to, give his music a listen, specifically his album Withered. So let me tell you something about this nigga's music. After listening to it and learning about his process, his inspiration and his process of making the music, I can confirm that whatever they said he did that shit and probably more. So I listened to Wither and I'm just thinking, man, this shit's corny as fuck. It sounds like music made by a 13-year-old who is obsessed with the idea of heartbreak and romanticizing depression or whatever. But, he's never experienced it. He's never experienced depression. Niggas live his whole entire life privileged. That's my first impression of listening to this nigga's album. The first track I heard was the intro track from where they're called Atomic Land. The name the title already just screams corny. Like, what the Atomic Land? Nigga, if you don't get this bullshit out of my face, but whatever. The lyrics are also corny. Like, I wasn't impressed by the vocal performance, to be honest, but I was like, alright, I can see the appeal. Your boy's trying to be objective, you know what I'm saying? The nigga David doesn't have that bad of a voice neither. He's not the strongest singer. He's not the weakest singer either though. The nigga voice isn't bad, but how you sing better live than on the track? Second track isn't, too much different from the first track, to be honest, but it was an improvement. So I wasn't mad at this point. The track definitely at least had some potential, I think, and I could see Lil Girl jamming this shit, unfortunately, but I could see it. The vocal performance was better better than the last records, so I wasn't mad with it. So now we on track 3. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just thinking like, just off the name, like the names of these tracks, like this one's called "You Left Me First." So yeah, I knew this track was gonna be some bullshit, and I wasn't wrong. I'm never wrong. So this track it's so boring, and the lyrics just piss me off. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. So fourth track, "Say It Back." I can't with this song, 'cause I love you like I'm supposed to. Like, nigga, you don't shut the fuck up. But you don't say it back. Like, tell me these doesn't sound like some middle school ass lyrics. Which, it kind of explains a lot if we really thinking about it now, like in hindsight. Track 5, and I realize I'm not gonna get anything different from what I've heard so far. This nigga has no range whatsoever lyrically. Look, I can appreciate his minimalistic approach to making music, and I can appreciate an album with an overarching theme, this cohesive, but get creative within these boundaries. He's so one note to me. Like, the theme is obviously love, heartbreak, abandonment, hate, all these emotions, taboo love, play with that, lyrically. You can probably leave like the taboo love part out, for obvious reasons, but play with these themes, even vocally, he's just so one note. Like, when it comes to, the melodies, what he does with his voice, the tempo, like, bro, I'm saying, experiment with the production here and there. Take Kanye's 808 and Heartbreak. We get different layers of his heartbreak. Heartbreak from relationships, his heartbreak from his mother's death. Heartbreak from watching others, start families. The heartbreak of fame, and all these varying topics. He's not afraid to take himself not so seriously at times. But David simply just has no creativity. The sixth track definitely has some indie rock, Radiohead kind of vibes mixed with some pop, corny ass elements. But damn, this nigga David sucks, man. Here's the actual lyric from the song. "I just bought a hammer. I'm trying to fix you." Man, nuke the entire fan base. Whoever said this nigga was talented is my eternal op. You need to, whoever sits there and listen to the song and thought that this nigga was talented. Their entire family needs to be genocide. Can I say that on here? Okay, whatever. I can see why he had, I can see why he had to get big off TikTok and streaming, because only kids would hear this shit and keep listening. The fact people allowed this to make it onto the track amazes me. It's obvious to me that David can express the concept of loving someone without simply saying I love you. Like, bro, just paint the picture of love. You don't have to every single song say I love you, or whatever. You don't have to literally sing I love you. Learn how to express it in different ways with different kinds of words and whatnot. Or don't paint the picture with words. You don't have to sit there and just be so on the nose with it. So I'm about done with this album. It's boring, repetitive, and childish. I've said all I'm going to say about the album. I just want to talk about a few things I've noticed. There's like voicemails and interludes that include a woman. Well, apparently that woman, and I say that loosely, because the woman really isn't anywhere close to being a woman. The woman in these voicemails is supposedly Celeste. The girl talking, it definitely sounds like Celeste, but I had a hard time believing this, because what man in a good state of mind would include a 13-year-old as their love interest on an album? And then in an interview, he says he's no longer with that girl anymore. So he's pretty much confirming he was with Celeste, and it's like, nigga, why? It's not like it's not like he didn't understand that this was controversial or could ruin his life. So that's why I was struggling to understand why he would do that. But as we go further into his lore, you're probably going to understand a bit more as to why. So but I guess he felt, I don't know, nigga said that the best way to groom a girl is out in the open. I don't know what to tell you. So in the track, they're talking about invisible string theory, which I'm pretty sure is like some Japanese shit. When they have that red string on their pinky and it leads to their soulmate or some shit like that. I don't know. I've only seen this trope in like animes. The trope might also be like more American cartoons or media. I don't know. I've mostly associated with Japanese cartoons, but it makes sense because they're weeaboos. Like, let's call them what they are. They're weebs. The whole thing is just childish, but it makes sense since you have a 13-year-old talking about love on the album. Her ass just went through puberty, and David got her on the album talking about soulmates and shit. This is just out of control. A lot of people question what makes a grown man, a decently handsome looking man with clout, money, a decent voice, go for a 13-year-old, throwing away his career over a 13-year-old when there's so many grown, pretty women who would love to be with him. Well, first, let me explain. Let me explain David to you. He's a guy who was taken out of school in like the 7th grade, so like around like 12 or 13, I think. He'd go on from, then to spend most of his life at home gaming online and no longer having his school friends and whatnot come over or hang out. So like every little nigga or any other person of this generation, they all want to be a streamer. He finds a hack in the algorithm, using certain music, to I guess get his stuff, his gaming videos out into the algorithm. But he gets copywriters or some shit. I don't know. I don't really care. He cries to his mom like a bitch, and she tells him to make his own music and get the fuck up out of her face and stop being a little bitch. So he did that, or he didn't stop being a little bitch, but he went to make his own music, and the music shit took off more than the streaming shit. So here's the issue: David exclusively writes about love and relationships, but he has never been close to being in a relationship at this point. At the point of where he first started blowing up, he admittedly never been in a relationship. He was faking the funk. He described it as a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. It's like he wanted to be heartbroken or something. I don't know. He probably he practically says when he first got his heart broke or whatever, he immediately went to write some music. You know, bro said I finally got some authentic material to write. He has a clear, immature perspective. Obviously, this is what taking your kids out of school and homeschooling them does. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. You want to know the premise of his album Withered that I was just talking about? So pretty much David has this alter ego called Itami. Guys, that's Japanese for pain, just so you know. Man, I cannot stand David, I promise you. It's one thing to do this as a 13-year-old, but as a 20-year-old, you make me sick. So, whatever. Bro finally got his heart broke, though. He got his heart broken by a 13-year-old and decided to become an anime villain. This nigga's out of control. There's an interview right where he explains that, you know, his 2023 album, Petals and Thorns, is where he wanted to be, and his 2025 album, Withered, is where he's at. What's the difference between these albums? There is none. Pretty much he was LARPing on his first album. You know, he's pretending. And by the time he got to his second album, Withered, he was really living that shit. You know, he wanted that. He wanted to live that. Pretty much is what he's saying. He wanted that for himself. He wanted to be some anime villain. It's actually crazy, the mind of David. So remember when I said his 2023 album is where he wanted his life to go. You know, a regular person who wants their life to be like romantic homicide and all these weird songs he's writing of heartbreak and all this other weird these weird love songs or whatnot. But, you know, that's where he wanted his life to go. Well, in 2023, he releases a video for a song called Rehab. This video is still on YouTube, Apple Music, everywhere, all the platforms. And let me tell you, this video is haunting. You may have seen this video as I think it's gone viral. It's an animated music video that pretty much tells the entire story of his album Withered. He fights his alter ego, Itami. Ugh. I hate saying this fucking... Okay. But there's also this female that looks young. Like ridiculously young. Like a 13-year-old. And the girl somewhat resembles Celeste. She seems to be the one egging on Itami's bad behavior and is portrayed as a temptress, you know, which is silly to watch for so many different reasons. You know, Itami, I hate saying this nigga's name, I promise you. Itami eventually cuts off the girl's arm and stabs her in the stomach, leaving her deceased. David and Itami battle again, where David, I guess, learns to live with Itami or something after defeating him. A very chilling video. This was made when Celeste was well and alive, and it supports my idea that David was just someone who really wanted to be an anime villain and found inspiration in this kind of stuff. There's another track on his Withered album. I haven't really talked about this track yet, but it proves my point that this is all just an anime to David. Last song on the album is called Afterlife, where he portrays Celeste as a girlfriend sent from Satan himself who he'll have to pretty much love from the afterlife because, you know, obviously she's dead. You know, same imagery as the Rehab anime video. This is clearly about Celeste. There's even a line about how when he dies, she'll be holding the knife. That line is haunting, especially when you know. There's a notorious clip where David is crying while singing this song.
I love you from the after. I love you from
Except David isn't crying even a little bit. There's not one tear in his eyes. This is all performative. It's just an aesthetic to him. He's truly a psychopath. He's not hurt about what he did at all. It's all just material to him. He finally gets to live his dream of being an anime villain. This man killed a woman, a little girl. He dated a little girl, and then when it threatened his career, he killed her, and he doesn't even feel a little bit bad about it. He chopped up her body. He maimed this he maimed this young woman's body. He has no remorse for it. It's all just a part of his character development. Okay, well, it all became clear to me. He wanted to date a 13-year-old because that's where he was mentally.
6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", 6'7". No.
Go to any grown women talking about I'm working on an album where I have these evil alter ego named Itami who rules my relationship. By the way, Itami, Itami means pain. It will be probably the one time an ick will be justified. No grown person can relate to these childish ideals of love and this weeaboo obsession with being a anime character. All in all, bias aside, what's my verdict on what I was originally talking about? Whether or not David is talented. I think objectively, he is talented, but the issue is that he's also not creative at all, and he's a cornball, and most importantly, he's probably a demon sent from Satan. He has to try to be like Radiohead, The Smiths, Frank Ocean, that Toro Imoy, however you say his name, that nigga. Everyone. He takes inspiration for everyone. He has no creativity himself. Just because you like heartbreak music doesn't mean you have to make it. If the fact you have to go this far just so you can make authentic heartbreak music or whatever is crazy. If you have nothing to say or add to the topic, just let it go. Bro had to kill a little girl for influence. Disgusting. All in all, rest up Celeste. Quick note to kids and parents: when you hang around a pop star, realize there's a 50% chance that you're hanging around the devil. I don't care if they read the Bible online or not. Even the devil knows the good word.